What's up, Cavs fans? Spencer German, Spencer Davies with you here at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. We changed things up a little bit. We stayed in the media room instead of going out on the court. It seems like we're always running into something out there. They're moving tiles around, they're making noise. So we want to keep it simple. But appreciate you guys jumping on in with us to recap the Cavs 110-91 win over JB Bickerstaff and the Detroit Pistons. Spence, I think one of the most telling things I think that sort of tells the story of this game is the fact that the Cavaliers did not have a very good night shooting, particularly from three, where they were 27.3%. It was one of their worst three-point percentages of the season, but they really solidified things in the defensive end. And I think that was the big story that players and Kenny Atkinson talked about after the game was how excited they were to see their defensive effort kind of carry them, especially with how the defense has struggled in some of these recent games during this losing streak.
Big time, especially because Cade Cunningham was coming in here.
Yeah.
He is one of the best guards in the Eastern Conference, probably up there with DG and definitely with Jalen Brunson. So they were able to kind of force him middle. You could tell in the second half he just didn't have his own kind of swagger. It was contested jump shots. The floaters weren't even going in. And then he started settling for shots beyond the arc that really weren't great looks. And, you credit Max Strus for doing that. You credit anybody that was really kind of guarding out on the perimeter. They did a really good job of funneling him to the middle and made him take 26 shots, only made 9 of them. They did a really good job of limiting the Pistons from getting any kind of looks from the outside. I know Detroit isn't quite too much of a three-point shooting team, but Malik Beasley is. He's one of the top three-point shooting threats in the entire association, and he only took 8 tonight. And that for a guy that shoots 40+% on 9 attempts a game, that's pretty big. So, a lot of credit goes to the rim protection of Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, but also to the perimeter defenders, and Max Strus definitely stood out.
Yeah, and I think Max Strus deserves a shout out because Kenny Atkinson obviously shouted him out after the game, and it really before, just talking about like without Dean Wade, without Isaac Okoro, his assignment becomes Cade Cunningham, and that he has to kind of set the tone. And again, for a team that recently the defense has been lacking, to see him come out and do just that, set the tone for this team on that end of the floor in particular. And that's the thing with Max. It's always like it's so interesting. It's like, and he was fine tonight shooting. Like he had 10 points. I think he was 4 of 9 from the field. He had 2 threes tonight. But like even when he's not on offensively, he always finds a way to make an impact on the other end of the floor. And I think like that was very evident tonight that again, he was the tone setter for that group coming out and playing the way that he did. And I think I think it was important to see for this group that even without some of your other top defenders, these guys that are hurt right now, and Mobley who's still kind of getting his feet back underneath them, like you can defend so at a high level and do this to a team. That's a good team because I think that obviously Detroit's a good team.
Yeah, and they defended in the half court, like I said, with Cade Cunningham, big time by just forcing him middle and really making him uncomfortable. It wasn't like that the Cavs were like forcing turnovers either. This was like taking a good defensive game plan, putting it into action, contesting, and making sure that you didn't foul. And it was a really good job on their part doing that. I think in particular with Max Strus, the way that he was able to contest, but also got a block on Tobias Harris from behind, had a steal, also did a really good job of really pushing the pace and doing a good job on the glass too. He had 8 boards tonight. So that's something that you really look at on the stat sheet. And I know that a lot of people don't like plus minus, but team high plus 20, game high plus 20, that's a big sign of what they were able to accomplish. And, I think that all started in the second quarter. And the stat that I kept on repeating to you before we came on here, the points in the paint. So look at this. Interestingly enough, Detroit had 2 more points in the paint. However, they had 13 more field goal attempts.
Yeah.
And the Cavs were able to do a good job of fending them off. In the second quarter, the Pistons were 4 of 14 in the paint. I think that was where it really turned for the Cavs and the defense really started to show and that this was going to be a really long night for Detroit.
Yeah. I think Evan Mobley deserves a lot of credit on that end of the floor as well. Again, sort of coming back, getting back in the swing of things in terms of his game. I thought it was interesting. We know Kenny Atkinson at this point, Spence, like he doesn't mince words a lot. He's very blunt about things. And he flat out said like Evan is playing good, but he's not elite Evan Mobley, like his exact words. And so you can tell there's still sort of like a getting reacclimated process for him. He even talked about how, they were very cautious because calf injuries can often lead to Achilles injuries. You want to avoid that, and that's part of the reason why he missed the games that he missed. And then obviously just even leaned into the idea that Kenny suggested, like, hey, yeah, he's still kind of feeling things out. And he said every game is a stepping stone for him. So I think it's going to take Evan a little bit of time, but I think another step in the right direction for him tonight. And I thought he played well.
Turned down some shots there, right where he's used to kind of catching the ball. He did get involved in the assist column today, rebounded the heck out of the ball. So did Jared Allen. The bigs were really good tonight, and in a game where they needed to be too. But with Evan in particular, it was nice to see a little turnaround fader in the middle of the floor that we've been used to seeing. But yeah, not quite putting it on the deck as much. A lot of baskets on assists for Evan, which he hasn't necessarily had to depend on this year. But now it's looking like he's starting to get back to himself a little bit. I was laughing because in the locker room, I asked him, how the injury occurred, but I framed it very poorly. But basically he said that, he didn't suffer it in a specific game. It was just something that kind of came on and was lingering, and they wanted to be cautious about it, and smartly enough they were. And now he feels like at least he's starting to get a little bit more of his rhythm back and his wind back. And I think he's still on a 28-minute restriction right now. So that's good.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least bring up the sort of overarching storyline from this game, which obviously revolved around the return of JB Bickerstaff for a second time this season. Mm-hmm. And Spence, we heard in pregame in lineup announcements, they announced JB Bickerstaff's name, and it was that same sort of mix of boos and cheers that you got from the crowd. I don't really get it at this point. Like, I guess I kind of understood it the first game back because it was like his first game back, and like, you're like, no love lost, like have some fun with it, whatever. But like at this point, it's like, and I thought it was interesting. Like JB had the great quote where he was basically like, somebody asked him, why can't it just be you're in a good place and the Cavs are in a good place, everyone's happy? Why does that have to be like revenge game and all this stuff? And he flat out said he just thinks it's about clicks. Like, it's just what happens. Like, happiness doesn't get clicks. And maybe he's onto something there. But I think it was interesting. Like Kenny Atkinson gave him a lot of praise for what he's done with the Pistons, and they've obviously turned things around very quickly. Cade Cunningham's taken that next leap under JB, and it feels very reminiscent of like what he did here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I mean that's the way you got to do it with a young team, and he's got great vets over there: Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway, Tobias Harris, who's obviously played well in Detroit. So yeah, he's got a good start over there. But equally, like JB was complimentary of Kenny. And he was also complimentary of how the Cavs core four has developed and matured. Yeah. And also just how the Cavs are succeeding this year is just by how they're sharing the ball and making sure that everyone's getting touches, and there's just like a selflessness about them. So there is no like storyline here anymore. I think that's kind of dead and buried at this point. And like JB said, happiness doesn't get clicks. So that just kind of goes out to the narratives and what everyone likes to fuel. And if you check out our YouTube channel, I did put up JB as we talked to him in the pregame. So if you want to see his actual words, go over there. And you know, the guys were asked about it in the locker room too afterwards. So make sure to check out their reactions.
Yeah, no animosity until they meet again on February 5th. So
can I say something though? Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Like, so you just brought it up. Like, you understand if like the fans were to boo in like the home opener and stuff like that. Yeah. I think that reaction was more appropriate than the one that he got tonight. Because the reaction he got in the opener, I think it was about 70-30 cheer to boo ratio. Tonight it was like 65 to 35 boo to cheer ratio.
I will say it was
makes no sense.
It was a lighter crowd tonight though, so I think you heard the boos more than you did that first game. Like that was like the home opener. It was like everyone was it. So I think tonight was a little bit different. But
that was more reminiscent of what people think.
I definitely see what you're saying though. But yeah, I don't know. Like again, I get it. The first game back, like to me at that moment, it sort of feels like more fun, like out of like love type thing, like we love you but we also wanted you gone, so let's just boo, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the fans took it. But I don't know, I mean it's fine, but I do think it's kind of funny. And like Spencer alluded to, you can see JB Bickerstaff's full press coverage from pregame over at the Cleveland Cavaliers and SI YouTube channel, where many of you might be watching this right now. I also wrote about that, and you can see his quotes in writing over at Cleveland Cavaliers on SI or si.com/NBA/Cavaliers. I'm also working on another piece that I should have up probably by tomorrow morning on Ty Jerome that you can find over there.
Start your stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying, it's a shameless plug. And much, much more. But we appreciate you guys stopping on by. We're keeping it short and sweet tonight, largely because Spence and I are dropping another episode of the podcast tomorrow. So we hope you'll join us for that. But in the meantime, nice to see the Cavaliers get back on track after the 3-game win streak for the first time this season. And we will talk to you guys very, very soon. Cleveland, thanks for watching. Keep on following along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.